Let us now look at Gauss law for magnetism. Now what produces magnetic fields? A current loop, right, basically behaves like a magnetic dipole, and that produces magnetic fields. We know that. Magnets produce magnetic fields, but we already know from Ampere's idea that magnets can be treated as current loops. But right now I'm going to treat magnets anyway here as a source of magnetic fields. And then we can also look at elementary particles because they also have a magnetic moment. So let us consider these different objects that produce magnetic fields in a region of space. Okay. Now all of them will be producing magnetic fields here, 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 and so on. And these magnetic fields you have to superimpose and add them up vectorially. That will give you the magnetic field at every location. Now I can arbitrarily choose a closed surface like this. So some of these magnetic objects are enclosed inside, some of them are outside. Okay, so now if I take this small tiny area, all of them will be producing magnetic fields there, and the net magnetic field, let us say, is like that B1 vector. Similarly, if I take this small tiny area, there is a magnetic field produced by everybody inside and outside, right? All the magnetic objects together, they produce a magnetic field B2. Similarly, if I take this, a net magnetic field of B3 is produced there. Now, Gauss law for magnetism, right? Gauss law for magnetic fields tells us that you can find the magnetic flux by doing integral B dot ds, and that turns out to be 0. Okay, integral B dot ds. What is integral B dot ds? You're taking this B vector, doing a dot product with the area vector, ds vector, and so when you do that dot product, you will get the tiny magnetic flux for this small portion. Similarly, magnetic flux for this, magnetic flux for this, and if you add it up for the entire surface, Gauss law is telling us that it is 0. It is 0. For electric charges, it said that integral E dot ds was q inside by epsilon naught. But now it is saying the integral for B dot ds is 0. Why would it be 0? Let us think about that. Okay, magnetic field is the density of field lines. Magnetic field is the density of field lines. So number of lines, magnetic field lines, divided by the area. So when you are doing magnetic field into area, that means you are multiplying density into area. What will you get? Number of field lines. So here you are going to get number of field lines going out, number of field lines going out, number of field lines going out. And if I add that up, that means magnetic flux is the net number of field lines passing out from the surface. Any line coming in we will consider as negative, line going out we will consider as positive. So this is basically net number of field lines passing out from the surface. So till here everything matches with what we have learnt with electric flux. But here Gauss law is telling us that it is 0. Why is it 0? Right? Think about it. Now any line, for if you take a current loop, you know that any line that is coming out here actually comes in that way. No, the lines are closed loops, right? They are closed loops. Even for elementary particles, this also is basically like the same as a current loop. No, if you think about it, think of it like a elementary magnetic dipole moment. Similarly, this is also like a tiny current loop, which is also like a dipole moment. So you know that field lines are going to come in, right, like this and go out like that. So they are always forming closed loops. So no lines are born here, right? But wait a minute. What about if I take a magnet and I say, okay, suppose a line is born at the North Pole and goes around and comes back into the South Pole, right? So basically net number of lines produced inside is what this should be. No, if the number of lines that are going out is what you're looking at, it must be equal to the net number of lines produced inside. But this is not producing any lines. Whatever lines it's coming out here, it's going in that way. Same for elementary particles. What about for a magnet? For a magnet also it is the same, right? If a line comes out of the North Pole, let's say it goes into the South Pole like that, actually it is not really coming out of the North Pole. It is going from South Pole to North Pole inside the magnet. You know that, right? So suppose you say, okay, let us say that a line comes out of the North Pole like that, goes out and then comes in like this, right? Suppose I were to look at a small tiny hole there, it is coming out, so you should count it. But wait a minute, it is also going back because it has to enter the South Pole, so it is going in here. So if you look at a line that goes that way and comes this way, again you can see one line went out and one line came in. So no lines actually going out. You can argue the same here for a loop, right? You can say the line that started this way can go out, but then it has to come back in. It has to come back in. So one point it will be going in, going out and one point it will be coming in. So there is no net lines produced inside. So that is hopefully clear. But wait a minute. What if I decide that this surface actually cuts across the magnet? That's why you have to remember that lines are actually going from south to north inside the magnet. So if it cuts across, you'll have to think of it as a north-south outside the surface and a north-south inside the surface. That's all. Because this north and south, they are imagined ideas, right? You know that these poles really don't separately exist. So you cannot end up having separate isolated magnetic charges inside this surface. Whatever happens, you will realize that you have to have a north and a south pole together. Even if you decide to make a cut here, you will effectively have a north-south, north-south. Think of it that way. And you also now know that magnets can be treated as basically just made up of current loops. And for every current loop, no line is actually born. The line simply goes around like this and comes back. So you can't say that the line was produced inside. So net number of lines produced inside is 0. For a magnet, the net number of lines produced is 0. Even if you thought of it as starting at the north pole, it is ending at the south pole, and you can't separate the two. If you made a cut here, it will be north-south, north-south, north-south outside, north-south inside. So anyway, for a magnet, you can't separate the poles out. So the net number of lines produced is 0. For a fundamental current loop, right, like this tiny circular loop, you will again see that lines are starting and ending, so closed loop. So again, you don't have net lines produced. And for elementary particles also, they behave like a small tiny dipole like this with a small magnetic moment, and lines basically are closed loops there as well. So that means the net number of lines produced is 0, and that's exactly what Gauss law for magnetic fields tells us. So the conclusion or the equivalent statement from Gauss law is that basically Gauss law for magnetism tells us that there are no magnetic charges, no monopoles, no magnetic monopoles. We have been using magnetic charges to solve problems, but you have to remember that it is just a calculation tool. In reality, there are no magnetic charges. You can never isolate a magnetic monopole. Let us now learn about Gauss law for magnetism. Before that, I am going to start with a quick review of Gauss law for electric charges. So I have here a bunch of electric charges. Okay, I have a bunch of electric charges. So Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, etc. And you know that at every point in space around this, these charges together will produce a net electric field. So here there will be a net electric field, there will be a net electric field, and so on. I can choose a closed surface like this. It's my choice. I can choose any closed surface. So if I choose a closed surface like this, then everywhere on the surface there will be some electric field, and that electric field will be produced not just by the charges inside but also by the charges outside. Okay, so if I pick this place, there's going to be an electric field that way. Let's call it E1 vector. Now this E1 is produced by all the charges inside as well as outside together. Similarly, if I pick this small tiny area on the surface, there's going to be an electric field E2. This is the net electric field produced by both inside and outside charges. Similarly, if I take this small tiny area, the electric field here E3 is also produced by the inside and outside charges. So basically, if I can do this for every point on the surface, right, you know that the electric field everywhere on the surface is produced by charges inside as well as charges outside. Okay, now if I take this E1 and do a dot product with the area vector for this tiny area ds1, okay, that will be called the flux through this tiny little area. Similarly, E2 dot ds2 will be the flux through this tiny piece. Similarly, E3 dot ds3 will be the flux through this tiny little piece. And if I add up all the fluxes for all the entire surface area, that is called the flux through this closed surface. And Gauss law for electric fields tells us that the flux phi through this closed surface, which is basically integral E dot ds for every point on the surface. You have to do this for every point on the surface. Now that electric field depends on charges inside and charges outside, both. But the result of this, the flux at this location will depend on charges inside and charges outside, because the electric field will depend on inside and outside. But if you add that up for the entire closed surface, that answer only depends on the charge inside, does not depend on the charge outside. So this is equal to charge inside by epsilon naught, charge inside by epsilon naught. So in this particular case, Q2 and Q5 don't come in. So you'll have Q1 plus Q3 plus Q4 plus Q6 plus Q7. Of course, Q6 and Q7 will turn out to be negative. I'm just simply saying adding with the proper sign. Okay. So the total charge inside by epsilon naught. The flux at a particular location depends on charges outside, charges inside, because the electric field depends on outside and inside charges. But the total flux for the entire surface only depends on the charges inside. Okay. What exactly is Gauss law really telling us? Let's think about it. What is this flux? Right? Before that, what is electric field? Electric field is the density of field lines. Density of field lines. So number of field lines, right, divided by the area. That will give you density. So when you're multiplying electric field into area, what are you getting? Right? Electric field is density of field lines. When you multiply it with area, what should you get? You should get the number of lines. So phi, right, the flux is the total number of field lines passing out from the surface. Of course, if a line is going in, right, if the electric field was pointing inwards, you'll be saying lines are going in. So lines who are going in, basically we'll call them as negative lines. Lines coming out, we'll call it as positive lines. So phi, the flux, is telling us the net number of field lines passing out from the surface. Net. So if a line goes in, it will be considered as a -1. When it comes out, it will be considered as a +1. So if a line came in and went out, it is effectively like a 0. Okay. So if you are looking at the net number of field lines that come out, well, the lines that were born inside, only they can come out, right? Because if a line was born outside, it will go in before it comes out. So every time it goes in, it will be considered minus. Every time it comes out, it will be again a plus. So suppose it goes in, comes out, goes in, comes out, then effectively it will be -1 + 1, -1 + 1. So lines that are born outside don't matter. So if phi flux for the closed surface is net number of field lines passing out from the surface, well, this can only be dependent on the total number of lines produced inside. So net lines produced inside. Why am I calling it net? Because suppose this produces a line but that eats up that line, then the net line will basically be 0, right? So you'll have to talk about the net lines produced inside. But that depends on the total charge inside. So this is charge inside by epsilon naught. So that is exactly what Gauss law tells us. So Gauss law is telling us that this integral E dot ds is telling us the net number of lines produced inside, and the net number of lines produced inside depends on the total charge inside. So this is basically Gauss law for electric fields.